So our 2018 Rent Event is obviously about educating landlords all across New Zealand around the many legislative changes that are coming into effect. But are you aware there are a lot of changes that have already come into place that affect you right now, today? Do you know the risks of non-compliance for legislation that's already in place? Are you aware of some of the key issues where we're currently in this limbo state? Do you know the possible financial ramifications of non-compliance? My name is Zach Snelling and I work here at Ray White New Zealand heading up our National Property Management Division. My role is very much as a support person to help your property managers focus on what they do well, and that's managing your property. I can help digest some of this legislation and pass the information to them in order to help keep you safe. Managing an investment property is so compliance based now. Many private landlords don't understand just how much work goes into it. There's much more to it now these days than just collecting the rent. And that's where Ray White come into play. Our property managers can take away all of that stress and help ensure that you're keeping yourself safe. In this video, I'm going to highlight just 5 key issues that are already in place, and there are much more as well, but I'm just going to stick to 5. As you're watching this, if each of the issues you can't answer the questions or you don't know the rules, I seriously recommend you contact one of our Ray White property managers. We're here to help. It's free advice. That's what this event is all about. So one of the first issues that's in place now, it's nothing new, you're probably already aware of it, it's smoke alarms. So every single rental investment property in New Zealand now has legislation in place around smoke alarms in that home. It dictates what type of alarms you can use, how many you must have in a property, and what type of variety of alarm you put in there. So do you know the answers to all of those questions? If you don't, and you haven't properly alarmed your property and made that sort of home safe for your tenants, there could be potential fines of up to $4,000 for any landlord who's to be found in breach. If you're working with a Ray White New Zealand property manager, we have all of the strategies in place, relationships with the best suppliers, and all of the knowledge to help make sure you comply. So the second legislative issue I'm going to be talking about today that's in place for you now is around insulation. Many of you may be aware that there are rules coming, but are you aware what's in place right now, today? So for every single property now and every single tenancy agreement, there must be a comprehensive insulation statement attached. That insulation statement actually has to have 9 separate components ticked off. Putting there simply, I have pink bats in my property will not suffice. Does your insulation statement cover off 9 separate issues? If not, talk to us because we have the templates that can help. Not only that, but by July 1st, 2019, there are going to be minimum R value requirements for every single rental property in respect of the thermal insulation that you have there. Do you know what those R values are? Are you prepared? Because most properties will need some form of upgrade. One of the key issues is that the industry doesn't have all the manpower required to do the necessary work for every rental property by July 1st next year. So are you ready? Have you got your plans in place? For those landlords who are wondering about their insulation statement now or their requirements next year, yes, there can be fines put in place by the Tenancy Tribunal for non-compliance. So today, right now, watching this video, if you don't have a compliant insulation statement, that can be an instant $500 fine. This time next year, once we get to the stage where insulation and R values are compulsory, if you don't meet the minimum requirements, that fine can be $4,000 per property. Are you prepared for that hit? What is the cost of a fine versus the cost of compliance today? When working with a Ray White property manager, we have all the tools and systems in place to help make sure that you're doing what you need to. We have comprehensive insulation statements that we make part of every single tenancy agreement, and we can also guide you on how to do that yourself as well. When it comes to actually making sure your property is compliant by July 1st, 2019, a Ray White property manager can put you in touch with the best assessors and installers of insulation to make sure that you're ready when the time comes. If you require more information on your insulation obligations, I do recommend talking to a Ray White property manager or perhaps seeking out a copy of our landlord information guide. Within that guide, we spell out all of your requirements right down to the letter, and it can help you guide you in the right path. The third issue I'm going to raise for you today, which is something you are obligated to honour right now if you are a landlord, is the issue around health and safety. So under the Health and Safety at Work Act, you are a PCBU, which is a person conducting business or undertaking. You now have obligations in regards to the contractors that you send on site, the methods that you undertake to check that they're valid and registered to do the work you're asking them to do, and also requirements around hazard notification to ensure that anyone that does go into the property is safe from harm. There can be significant risks for landlords who don't comply or have been proven not to show their duty of care. Now, the issue of health and safety may sound a little trivial if you're a landlord who isn't quite aware of it yet or you haven't done what you need to. But it can be as simple as simply sending someone out to the property. It's a wet, rainy day. Someone might accidentally slip over and break their leg. If you haven't notified them of the hazards there, the wet, slippery driveway, whatever it might be, you could be in trouble with WorkSafe. When you work with a Ray White property manager, we have all of the templates and processes in place to help ensure you cover your health and safety needs. Every single contractor that we use goes through a thorough vetting system, and we have contracts in place with them to ensure they also meet their health and safety obligations. We're here to help you digest this legislation and make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk of fines and everyone at the property is keeping themselves safe as per the legislation requires. So the fourth issue I'm going to be talking about in this video, and one of the most important for us at the moment, is that around methamphetamine. Methamphetamine and maximum allowable requirements. When do you test? How do you test? What is the current situation? Unfortunately, that is the state of limbo that we're in right now. The problem's being caused because we have one set of rules for the government. There's been the release of the recent Gluckman report, setting the levels at, say, 15 micrograms as the maximum allowable limit. But also when you look at the actual parties that are involved with remediation for you as a landlord, that would be your insurers and the tenancy tribunal. They're currently in most cases ruling with the existing NZS 8510 standards, which are 1.5. So you've got industry ruling at 1.5 and you've got government ruling at 15. Where does everything sit? At the moment, we just don't know, and that's why you need to be very careful. There can be serious financial and health complications by putting a tenant in a property that's above the maximum allowable limit, and that limit will potentially be different depending on who you talk to. But again, I must stress, when it comes to the tenancy tribunal or your insurer, they are currently, at time of filming, recommending the existing NZS 8510 standards. So methamphetamine, as you can hear, is a very contentious issue at the moment. No one quite knows exactly where the issue is going to go. We will find out soon, but that's exactly why you need to talk to one of our Ray White property managers. My role at Ray White is to help ensure our network is updated to the minute with any changes in this space. We're keeping our guys posted with what's happening, and you need to be as well. The risks of not doing this properly or potentially renting out a property that may be deemed to be uninhabitable are serious. So please talk to us if you have any questions. So the fifth and final issue that I'm going to touch on today is that of asbestos. So asbestos comes into effect under the Health and Safety at Work Act, and there are very clear regulations for any PCBU, which if you are a landlord, you are. As a PCBU, your asbestos regulations are numerous and varied, and the risks of non-compliance can be significant, but only in one of those worst case scenario type of situations. If that were to happen, you need to show your duty of care. So what are your obligations as a landlord under asbestos? Well, firstly, as a landlord and a PCBU, you have a duty to ensure that all asbestos has been identified in the property. You also have a duty to ensure you identify the presence and location and how significant the risk of that asbestos contamination is. Thirdly, you also have a duty to prepare an asbestos management plan for every single rental property that you have. And one of your obligations is also to continue reviewing that plan no more than every 5 years to make sure that it's up to date. So finally today, I've talked to you about 5 key issues that are in place right now and affecting you as a landlord. Each of these 5 issues present obligations that you must honour and have prepared and ready for your property. If any of these have raised questions for you, you're not sure, or maybe you just want to have a chat, please seek out the advice of our Ray White property manager. We have all the tools in place to help make sure you are safe, and we're here to help.